Hello and welcome to the Thresher Football Show. I'm Dan Page alongside interim head coach at Bethel College, Dalen Markham, as the Threshers suffer their first loss of the season on the road in a tough place to play at Kansas Wesleyan in Salina. Final score ended up being 21-6. And it was a tough one for the Threshers, down 14-3 at halftime. A very much defensive contest on both sides of the sidelines. And the Threshers unable to get a touchdown on the board on a couple of trips to seemingly the red zone, but settling for field goals from Mateo De Hoyos and making both. But definitely a learning experience, right, Coach?
Yeah, definitely a learning experience. So we got back to film Sunday, and it was ugly. We had a lot of chances to make plays that we didn't, and it just kind of fell up short this week. So hopefully this next week we can clean it up a little bit and then make the plays we need to make.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you guys never felt like you're really out of the game. It's because your defense was just hanging in there, and then sometimes they, next to no time to get back out on the field and, come back out because of turnovers and things like that. And Kansas Wesleyan, in this kind of game, they really found ways to, find the team's weak spot, so to speak, and try to exploit it. And then, even when the defense is given everything they have, there were times that, it just those are just somewhat lapse moments that never really happen.
Yeah, they had a couple good plays schematically that schemed our defense up pretty well, and then they just took advantage of it. And then those, like the one long touchdown pass they had, is just a good scheme beater that we have, and then we just didn't have our eyes in the right spot. So that kind of hurt us a little bit, and that's one of the long touchdowns they had. So, and then that touchdown before half off of the interception. Defense got to do a better job of, even as we get short field, we got to home to a field goal. So that's just on the defense right there. Just got to, don't let the circumstances define you, and just got to man up and bow up and stop them.
Yeah, this means no disrespect to Kansas Wesleyan whatsoever, but it really felt like this team that they fielded was more beatable probably than the teams they've fielded every year since 2019. I was talking to some of your guys, and they were surprised that they were not as big as they typically are up front and things like that. And, I mean, that's not trying to discredit anybody. That was just observation from their point of view. But, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a mental thing, but some things did kind of feel a little off during the game.
Yeah, the warm-ups felt a little weird because we got there in a soccer game going on, but it is what it is. You got to overcome stuff like that, and then you got to just overcome adversity when it hits you. So that's another thing we're preaching on this week. Just got to fight in the shade and do what you got to do to win. So we hopefully do a better job of that this week.
Certainly, and the Threshers do have a lot of incentive for this week's game against Tabor and the Fall Fest football game and everything that ties into not just the game but the opponent as well, and the Minnow Bowl type rivalry between Bethel and Tabor this week. We'll get more on the Blue Jays in the second part of the program, but the Threshers went down on a first touchdown pass for Kansas Wesleyan, and it was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, and they were able to get a 37-yard field goal from Mateo De Hoyos right out of the bat in the second quarter to make it a 7-3 game. And it just really felt like they were never really out of it. Kansas Wesleyan would score on a run on short field after an interception late in the second quarter to go up 14-3 at halftime. But then you guys come out, after each team is held scoreless in the third quarter, get a field goal to make it 14-6. And then, at that point, it really looked like you guys had a chance to really come back into the game and make it a really big challenge for your opponent. But they were tremendously difficult in the secondary sometimes for your guys, and they're able to maximize off of turnovers. And then their quarterback that only runs, runs for a touchdown. And that was the thing I felt like they did really well, is they had the jet sweeps that they wanted, which our defense usually does great against. and when they were able to fake that and do other things out of it, including the quarterback takeoff. But it was a final score of 21-6, Kansas Wesleyan getting the victory over the Threshers and in Salina. And I'm sure it was a very difficult. Everybody was eager to get back home after that one. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult kind of game, but I know there's some things offensively. It really looked like we just mentioned they brought the heat a lot.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for the offensive line to handle. There was times where DJ would just catch the snap and the guys would be there because of how quick they were and how disciplined and how physical they were defensively. And it definitely is a learning game from that perspective.
Yeah, the Kansas Wesleyan did a good job. They stuck to the game plan. They blitzed a little bit here and there, but their D-line was they were just quicker and kind of more athletic than we're used to kind of up front. And then they just kind of dominated the game essentially. So we couldn't really run up the middle. We had a couple good runs to the outside, so we should hopefully we get more of the outside run game going this week a little bit because Tabor, they got some big dudes in the middle as well. So hopefully we just got to learn from this game, kind of work on our in-game adjustments a little bit to make sure we can capitalize on that what the other team is taking away.
Yeah, and it's not like the offense was entirely, a huge lost cause. You guys got 18 completions in the passing game for 167 yards because, obviously, there was times where you guys were forced to pass the football.
Yeah.
And, Josiah Buller did a great job, in receiving core, Corey Catron as well as Jimmy Martin coming up and making a big catch in the second half for you guys. Those are just scratching the surface, honestly.
Yeah, they were able to move the ball a little bit, but just too stagnant at times. So just feel like kind of a lot of 3 and outs here and there. So we were moving the ball at some points. We thought we had a good drive, and then one bad play just kind of ruined the drive for us a little bit. So we got to do better on first downs. That's what the key thing that hurt our offense was the first down. We get like a 3-yard loss, and we're kind of forced to pass the ball because it's second and long. So we got to do better on first down this week.
Mm-hmm. You see a lot of short passing, and I know some of that is just quick hitter kind of ball, and some of it is also just the quarterback making a read and having to dump it off at times.
Yeah.
In that game, it's kind of hard because when you were able to get completions, it was only for like 2 or 3 yards in some cases. So it's hard to throw for the sticks, so to speak, against a good team like Kansas Wesleyan.
Yeah, they did a good job.
So DJ Sears ends up throwing for 167. Toriana Richardson rushes for 56, but is still on the top 5 in the nation in season rushing yards. I'm not going to trust any of the receiving stats because some of them are just not real.
I think we did it. Josiah had like 6 catches for like 60 yards or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're all wrong in the book.
Yeah, it says Jarek Woodley had a catch. So I must have slept during that one.
Yeah, for real. He's a DN.
But nonetheless, defense seems to be okay. It's Tate Siebel, 8 tackles. That's no surprise. 2 tackles for loss. He was all over the place, especially early in the game.
Yeah.
He was the kind of guy, and he wasn't going to take anything from anybody, and he was just going to be, what he's expected to be.
Yeah, he's been playing ball this past couple of games, so excited for him.
Noah Miller with 7, and then according to this, Josh Sears with 8 in the game. Ernest Ferrier had a solo sack, but Colton McCarty and a few others split up a sack, which was really important. It was. And then an interception from Roderick Edwards that was really great. He's just playing so well this year.
Yeah,
when teams have really picked on him in the past, he's really stepped up, and I think he has 3 interceptions now on the season to lead the team. And for a defense that typically has, this amount of interceptions on the season through 4 or 5 games the last few years, seems to be right on track and everything.
Yeah, Rod finally listened to his DB coach. I don't know. He's finally listened to me a little bit here and there, so he's doing good. So yeah, we just got to do. I think I just got to do better. I feel like we didn't do too bad in the passing area, but there's some plays that our eyes just got off our keys and then kind of gave a big play. So we'll hopefully we'll be better this week.
Yeah,
upcoming games.
Well, there was a couple times. Of course, I was on kind of towards the end zone on the Kansas Wesleyan side, and I could just get a sense that they were going to try to go one-on-one with some of your guys, just to see how good they really were. And I just felt like sometimes you guys, I was like, well, he's much better than that, in those scenarios. But I mean, they're good. They're very talented in receiving core. Probably the best receiving core you guys have faced this year.
Yeah, they're pretty good all around. They're pretty much overall just a good team. So.
Yeah, no question. But the Threshers go on the road and lose 21-6. I mentioned Mateo De Hoyos 2 37-yard field goals. He was money for you guys, and really looked like he was doing pretty well. And I just like what he brings to the game. And then I wanted to mention Kenyon McMillan the last few games in the return game. Special teams, he has a great kickoff return in the first half against Kansas Wesleyan. I mean, in his hometown, so to speak, and definitely wanted to, come out on the right foot.
Yeah, he's been killing in the return game for us. So, man, if he keeps getting tackled by the kicker, though, that's number one. You can't get tackled by kickers. So, I told him if he does that again, he's fired. But no, he's been doing a good job. He's been what we need in the return game. I think he averages maybe 20, 30 yards on every return so far in the season. So, that's big for us flipping the field, helping us in the field position game. So, shout out Kenyon.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive to see him do that. And obviously, special teams, I can't say it enough, is so important in ball position.
Yeah.
I mean, it can make or break you in some sequences because, you start out here, and if you don't get it, you're going to have to punt from here.
Yeah.
And then when you punt the ball, the other team gets great field position.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it's just kind of frustrating sometimes when things don't necessarily go your way. So that's kind of the rundown on statistics. If I mentioned anything that really stood out, I mean, it was a hard. Somewhat of it was hard to find highlights for. I'll be honest with you. And
yeah, I'm right there with you. We try to do highlights after every game, and it was like, boy, what's the many highlights for us?
Yeah,
there was like really no highlights in the game in general. I feel like it's just a defensive battle, and those are boring, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you guys had a chance there to, when they were backed up at the 1-ish, and I was like, oh, man, this is a big opportunity.
Yeah.
And they were finding ways in the passing game. I mean, they were passing the ball backed up on their own 1. They weren't
scared.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, a lot of teams try to run out of that, and I mean, that's great, but you're still maybe a lot of times only going to get 1 or 2 yards out of that.
Yeah, so, yeah, they did some tendency breakers right there and just kind of threw it on us, tested our corner, and then somehow they come up with the ball. So they got some guts over there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was a good scenario for you guys, and I don't even know what you could really chalk up to as far as, because I could feel it too.
Yeah.
Like when you get off the bus and get on, and I don't know necessarily if it was just waiting to take the field or anything. It just everything just kind of fell off like entirely. I don't know if it was the muggy humidity or what, but it was. It was kind of different kind of flavor in pregame.
We all felt it too. All the coaches were talking about it. Just didn't feel right that day. So I don't know. It wasn't in our favor that day, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I know you don't want to talk about it anymore. And so I appreciate you humoring me on that. But nonetheless, let's look at some scores from all the other games that actually got done before you guys, and there were several in the afternoon. In Leavenworth, St. Mary getting the win for the Bissell division over Bethany. I didn't necessarily see that coming. The Spires went 35-22 at home against Bethany, so interesting development there. And then Avila, after falling to you guys by 3 points, comes back home and plays McPherson, and McPherson just kind of ran with it. But the thing was, Avila, I believe Eli Williams left the game for a period of it, re-aggravating an injury, and then also, they had so many penalties in that game. So I was listening to the broadcast on the way up to Salina, and it definitely didn't sound great for Avila, but McPherson seemingly ran the ball really well against them, among other things. Sterling and Southwestern, the Mound Builders just continued to cruise. I think their closest game is 20 points this year, and that's rough. It was like 19, I think 40-21 or something like that against Avila. But I mean, honestly, you know what that is. Yeah, 42-7. They continue to impress. They're going to be so tough, and I know before you guys play them, they have to face Friends in a huge football game in Winfield, I believe believe it or not, later this month. I can't believe it's October, but it's going to be here before you know it. So that'll be an interesting one to follow outside of the Thresher season. And then Evangel winning at Ottawa 27-14. It was kind of like the Tabor game a little bit for Evangel. They've had a few slow starts, and maybe not as in cruise mode like they did last year against most of the conference outside of a couple games.
Yeah.
But they get the victory 27-14, and then Tabor, your opponent this week, shut out by Friends 24-0 in Hillsboro, and I'm sure they want to bounce back huge from that. But Friends, that says a lot about Tabor's defense to hold Friends to 24 points too.
Yeah. Yeah, their defense is they're a pretty good team, man. Their record don't really show how good they are, but man, they're a pretty big physical team up front, and they got some good receivers and good skill players all around. So it should be a good game this weekend.
Absolutely. And that was the rundown for this past week in the conference, and really how that sets up as far as the Kessinger division goes. You and McPherson are kind of even there on record, and then Bethany falls to 2-3 on the year. Otherwise, Friends, Southwestern, and Evangel all 5-0 on the season. And Kansas Wesleyan, just kind of recapping them a little bit, they have a huge opportunity to win their division, because I thought out of everybody you guys have faced this year, they looked probably the best.
Yeah.
But, that's just my judgment.
Yeah, definitely. They're probably one of the better teams. Them and Avila, if Eli Williams plays. But yeah, Kansas Wesleyan got the best probably overall team so far we faced.
And that's no discredit to this week's opponent in Tabor. Absolutely. But, Kansas Wesleyan, better than their record suggests, because anytime you run through the Kessinger, if you can get a couple victories, good luck. And they have I believe, I'm trying to remember who they're playing this. McPherson is who they're playing this week. Yeah, that's right. Yes, Kansas Wesleyan is at McPherson this week. That's one of the few games, as we can talk about those. 1 o'clock kick from McPherson. Evangel is hosting Avila, and Bethany is hosting Ottawa. It'd be interesting to see what McPherson does against Kansas Wesleyan. Kansas Wesleyan and McPherson this week. McPherson, I feel like that's a big measurement game for them, especially just to see what they're fully capable of, because ever since they lost that first game 1 of the season 20-10 against Tabor, they have really seemed to get things turned around and back on track.
Yeah, they're getting better and better each week, so we gotta get ready for Kessinger division play.
Yep, and their quarterback Tristan Zabo was a conference player of the week this week on offense. Other games this week: Southwestern hosting St. Mary, Friends hosting Sterling, and then of course the final evening game, Bethel against Tabor in the Minnow Bowl, as they dub it. It sometimes, in recent years, outside of last year, really just, you haven't really felt a sense of rivalry, I guess, in this one. For me, between last year's game and probably 2019, where Bethel, both were Bethel losses, oddly enough, but Bethel fumbled the ball inside the 5 that year on the game-winning drive.
Oh, yeah.
And that was very frustrating, but on a Fall Fest football game as well. Yeah. So, a lot goes into that. But Tabor, a team that you mentioned, very physical. They were able to throw it against the Threshers a lot last year, and it was just kind of catching you by surprise somewhat, at least from my vantage point. And I know that your team last year just, there was mistakes made in that game.
Yeah, definitely.
DJ, so many times, and people have told me, DJ has kept us afloat in some scenarios, and I have to tell them all the time, it's not just DJ.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that go into that. But when you see Tabor, other than what we've talked about so far, what do you see from them, offense, defense?
Defensively, last year when we played them, they almost blitz almost every single play. So we got to be prepared for that again this week. I know K-Dub kind of different last week, but man, Tabor really bringing almost every play. So kind of in practice this week, gonna have a lot of block protection versus the blitz versus the defense, and then just kind of preparing us for their different stunts and different moves they do on defensive line. So and the linebacker. So got to get ready for that. And on offense, man, they kind of unpredictable in sometimes. So sometimes, like against McPherson, they ran it 40 times and passed it 20. And then against like Evangel, they threw it 40 times and ran it 20. So they're kind of unpredictable in a sense. So I think once they find something they like to do, they stick to it. So like last year versus us, they couldn't run the ball that much, so they just threw all over us. And that was I think that was last year was the quarterback's first game he started. So he kind of took that and ran with it a little bit. So he's the quarterback's pretty good. He's big, tall guy, big physical runner. So he has a good arm. He can make all the throws. He has a couple errant throws here and there, but man, he can, once he gets locked in, he's pretty one of the top passers in the conference, I feel like. So
yeah,
just gotta, the DBs and the D-line and linebackers, we got to do a good job of reading our keys and doing our job, and then DBs having good eyes and making plays, giving it to us.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's kind of tough to gauge, and I agree with you on that assessment completely because, they're a team that threw that much, and then against, Bethany, they throw for 6 interceptions in that game, and, that is just one of the most rarest things you can ever see in a game. Yeah,
I watched the film. Some of the interceptions were a little fluky. I ain't gonna
really.
They had like a one-handed catch. It bounced off one of the receivers' hands and went into the DB's hands. Like some of those were some fluky, but he did have some bad throws that game. But that's probably one of the it's one of the bad games, worst games I've seen from him. But other than that, he's been on the money, on target. So he's a pretty good quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly. Going back to your offense against their defense, I remember before even the first day of camp, but when I met Coach Wright, I was saying, here's some games you might want to go watch from last season to get an idea of what needs to be improved upon, and Tabor was certainly that game.
Yeah, definitely.
They brought the heat. I know we tried to throw some screens, things like that. We did score a couple touchdowns and kick 2 field goals, and our kicker at the time just was lights out from had the program record for longest field goal in that game. Yeah. And still to come up short with that was really frustrating. Even threw for a touchdown there at the end, but it just seemed like it was a lot to get back to what the scoreline was for Tabor and try to overcome them. But then there were so many fluke kind of things happen. A lot of penalties.
I remember one we try to fair catch a kickoff. Mm-hmm. We fair catch it, but they let the refs let them catch the kickoff. So they thought it was onside. So kind of one of those fluke things that kind of got missed. And I think that played a little factor in the game as well, because after that we kind of lost our minds on the sideline.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So no, it just hopefully don't happen. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you ask College Football 25, if that does happen, if it pops up, even if it hits the ground, you can still fair catch it.
Exactly.
I mean, that is legitimate. And I know we kind of suffered some repercussions because of that after that game as well.
Oh yeah.
We don't need to mention all of that. I mean, that's just kind of inside baseball, so to speak. But it was a definitely difficult loss to handle for Bethel at Tabor last year, and nonetheless, your guys that have stuck around for that, they know how important it is, especially for this game, and especially how difficult it's going to be to win, singular games the rest of the year. Yeah. And you constantly have to put your best foot forward. And I think after the Kansas Wesleyan game, more than anything, it's getting your mind right is probably the most important thing.
Yeah. So that was just kind of like a wake-up call. I was talking to some of the players after the game. They were like, "Man, Coach, I don't think I've ever been 4-0 before." And they were like, "It felt good." I was like, "Man, maybe it felt a little bit too good." It's kind of it's just the kind of the effort and kind of stuff wasn't there a little bit, but man, we kind of started coasting. I felt like so maybe that was like a wake-up call for us. Kind of just wake us up a little bit, say, "Well, man, we're not who we think we are. We gotta get back to the drawing board and get better each and every day in practice." So today was a good practice. So hopefully, it shows on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, when you've been around the game for as long as you and I have, you see these kind of starts and everything, and you kind of read between the lines a little bit. Some slim margin victories, against Avila, coming to mind the most, and an overtime win against Ottawa, things like that. but I know that you guys definitely have an opportunity to really grow from this experience, and who knows what team you can be going forward. I mean, honestly, that's what we've kind of seen from this conference is teams consistently bounce back and be even better, when they face adversity, even this early in the season.
Yeah, we gotta win and lose. You gotta. You never play perfect, so you gotta learn from your mistakes in each and every game. So we gotta get better and stop making the same mistakes over and over again. So the penalties have gotten a little bit better. That's one positive from the game.
Yeah.
The penalties are getting a lot better. We started in double digits, now we're at like 5 a game. I'll take that as a win. Yeah,
I mean, I might dispute some of them from this past game.
We always can. They call it, so we got to go roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for even keel as far as penalties for both teams. They go in a typical game, and maybe I see things a little bit one-sided. I don't know.
We all do. We're a little biased in some way.
But nonetheless, this week it's Bethel and Tabor, a 6 o'clock kick from Thresher Stadium. Hopefully you can make it to Newton and North Newton this week. It should be a fantastic week. I was just talking to Director of Athletics Tim Schwartzentruber earlier today. There's so much for athletics that has to go on. I mean, you had the 1984 football team coming in for a reunion, and I've already spoken to members of that team coming into this week, and then you have the Hall of Fame banquet recognizing head football coach as well as a volleyball team that was really remarkable and truly outstanding. I believe 1983 was the volleyball team that's being recognized in the Thresher Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. So that's tremendous. But not only that, but Thursday, it's a great night for a Taste of Newton. I hear our good friend Josh Booth is going to be emceeing down there.
Oh,
so
ain't no telling what he's going to be playing.
Exactly. Yeah. So looking forward to that. Always good eats, and it just kind of makes the week something to look forward to. I know you guys have a football game and everything, but with young minds and everything, it's staying engaged can be so difficult sometimes. But having that extra stuff to do, I mean, it's always nice because these are once in a lifetime opportunities.
Definitely.
Not just to go to college and also play college football, get an education, things like that, but also just the added value that this week of Fall Fest obviously brings to it. But Taste of Newton on Thursday, and then a Hall of Fame banquet and other festivities on Friday night, and then Fall Fest Saturday, always fun. It's going to be a fantastic day. You get some great food in you from the morning on and everything like that. So, but we have volleyball at noon. I'm excited for that one. It should be great. Volleyball, glad to be having them back at home for a couple matches this week, and then leading up to the 6 o'clock kick for the Threshers and the Blue Jays from Thresher Stadium. And it always is a great game, and I know you guys are so eager to get out there and get back on the right foot, especially at home. Home is something that you protect well.
Yeah, home is always fun. A good environment, especially on Fall Fest. It's always a great crowd, great environment to play in, especially all the old alumni coming back. Just always fun to have those guys around and put on a show for those people.
Yeah, and it always seems like one of the bigger crowds, if not the biggest crowd of the year. Between that and the first game of the season, you kind of balance it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But Fall Fest football game is fantastic. And, I mean, if you haven't been before, come. It's fantastic. Even if you can't come for one of the events, come for another one. I mean, it's truly remarkable, and probably the highlight, I don't know, of some people's entire academic year at Bethel College, whether they're staff, student, faculty, or a member of the athletic department, etc. So nonetheless, it's great. You can go to bethelks.edu, and I think it's /fallfest to get more information on that, and they do a lot to get that ready each and every year, but just kind of adds that value to the football game this week.
Definitely.
And I hope you guys are still having fun despite everything. I mean, that kind of adds into the mental aspect of things as well. I mean, it's so hard to try to dig yourself out of a loss, and sometimes. And I know a few of the guys actually came to the church that I go to, the same church that A.B. Stokes used to go to as well, and Chance Scurry, former player in the program, goes there too, and it was just good to see them trying to figure out how to get their mind right for another week of football and also stay positive. I mean, you have to have that extra value. You can't come out flat again.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I told them today at practice is, man, we got to start having more urgency in the first quarter. I think we only scored 8 points in the first quarter this all season, so we can't have that. So hopefully kind of give some more urgency in practice a little bit here and there. So, but yeah, you can't harp on the losses, man. It's a game. You can't win them all, right? So that's the goal. Everybody want to win, go undefeated, but we're going to lose eventually. So that's what I've been harping on, just kind of learn from your mistakes. Got to get better. Just learn, watch the film, get better, see what you need to get better at, and work out on the practice.
Yeah, I was really thinking about it after the game this past week, and I was thinking about, even the professionals, when they lose football games. I mean, it's not like, Division I college football where you have undefeated teams playing for the national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in that arguably Division I college football is borderline professional these days anyway.
Yeah.
But, so many teams are capable of beating so many other teams, but this level is kind of the same way. I mean, yes, the cream will rise to the crop eventually, but there's so many people on equal par with each other, going against the same obstacles, whether it's one thing or another. And I know you guys have the same challenges that people at Tabor have, or other schools in the conference that you face week in and week out. But just trying to overcome those things and get the W. I mean, it takes everybody involved.
Yeah, it does. That's why I have a good coaching staff, and I feel like my coaching staff have been doing good working overtime this week, especially coming off a loss, just trying to get better and find ways to make the offense and defense work together better as a one group instead of more offense versus defense here and there. So we've been doing better at that this week, just kind of harping on staying as one team and kind of just sticking together, fighting for the same larger purpose. So.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately everybody has the same goal, and I mean, yeah, you hit on it right on the nail. I mean, yes, you encourage that kind of rivalry between the offense and the defense and everything, but that's what competitors do. I mean, you got to compete every single drill, every single play. And, you want to put your best foot forward all these times, because consistency is contagious. Like, and it's not just a football thing; it's a life thing. And if you can get that all figured out, I mean, you're going to have so much going for you. So much value to you as a human being and roles as well. So, I mean, who knew, right?
Who knew?
But anyway, well, Coach, I always give you an opportunity to share some final thoughts before we go into another week of football. I can't believe we're almost entirely through the first half of the season, playing your 6th game already in the 2024 season.
And it's flying by. It's flying by for real. It was going by fast. I didn't even know. As a head coach, it goes by faster. For like last year as a DC, it's like, dang, it's only week 6. Like it goes by a little bit slower, but it's just fun. It's fun though. It's fun being the head coach. So hopefully we come out and put on a show for you guys on some Fall Fest Saturday and just come out and support.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I will ask one more question. I know that with the bye week kind of looming in between, non-division and division play, how do you coaches manage that, I guess, would be the question I would ask.
It's weird because we have fall break next week too, so we have like Friday off, I think Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday off as from classes. So me, myself, we're going to have practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then I'm going to Houston, actually, to watch my sister play in volleyball. She goes to Mexico State. Okay. So kind of just give everybody a break. I know a lot of the players are going to go home, just kind of take a break from Bethel and football and just kind of relax a little bit, and then hit the ground running on that Monday. Get ready for May 1st, and so just kind of just give a little vacation time here and there and just take a break, really.
Yeah, you definitely need to rest everything, because it takes so much out of you, and I feel you guys so much. I mean, you're especially the players, their attention is so divided between, trying to put their best foot forward in class, on the football field, and just all in all as human beings, and just try to, make this the best experience possible. But nonetheless, hopefully the Threshers can get the W this week and enjoy some time before McPherson in the second half of the season. Well, for Coach Dale and Markham, I'm Dan Page. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and check out Fall Fest this week. It's absolutely fantastic, and I know the alumni watch this program, and we all salute you and appreciate your support and everything that you do for Thresher Athletics. For Coach Markham, I'm Dan Page, as always, telling you to roll on.